Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to the NextConnect webinar series. Our goal this morning is to bring you the latest membership and marketing communications and tips and tools and tricks along with the latest research and insight straight from the experts and volunteers and professionals that are making it happen. We've done NextConnect actually events in different regions in the past, and those have been very successful. And I'll give full credit to a gentleman named Dave Nebraska, who's the chairman of the National Communications Support Committee, who came up and we were talking about, a lot of times we'll make presentations and a lot of the conversations turn out being, hey, this stuff's really great, I had no idea it existed. So we started talking about different ways and strategies to help make sure that we had shared this information with as many people as we could, and Dave suggested, maybe this is just as simple, in addition to the emails and blog posts and things that we do, maybe it's as simple as a monthly webinar, which we thought was a great idea. So special thanks to Dave Nebraska for his leadership in helping us put all this together. So we have a host of people in the office with us today. We're going to go through and take the approach from this first webinar to introduce you to some of the people here that provide tools and assets and resources, and really have them talk about some of the tools and assets and resources that are available. So we're going to spend our time here this morning. It'll be about 45 minutes. We'll do this on a monthly basis. There is some additional information we sent out about the December webinar that's coming up on the 15th of December. The topic of that one will be Build an Adventure, and we'll really get under the hood of the Build an Adventure recruitment campaign, assets, tips, information about that as well. So that's coming up in December, as well as additional information and webinars throughout the year. So to get things started, we're going to start off with a regular feature we're going to call the data dump. Everything we do is really based on research. It's grounded in research from campaigns, even getting down into the metrics of the things that we post and tweet and share across the country. So each month we'll have a quick section. We're calling the data dump with our Director of Marketing Intelligence, Mr. Scott Olson. Scott, glad to have you with us this morning.
Hello, Michael, and welcome, everybody.
Hey, so we're always looking for studies that highlight the outcomes of scouting, and there's all kinds of good information out there, but there's a new one. It's actually been out for several months, but I think people are just starting to discover it. Tell us a little bit about it and where it came from.
Well, Tufts University in Boston and their Institute of Applied Research and Youth Development, lots of words there, they worked jointly with the John Templeton Foundation and sponsored an empirical study. So for over 2.5 years, they observed and recorded the change in character of 10 different character traits like kindness, obedience, trustworthiness. They surveyed about 2,000 young boys, averaged age about 8 years old. Some joined Cub Scouts, some did not. That was the key.
So we've seen lots of research over the years, and there's the values of men and boys in America, and the family room, and authenticity gap. What's so special about this one?
Well, the lead researcher is a nationally known expert in youth development, and he has credibility in this field. He's completed dozens of research papers, and this independent study learned that boys of a similar age share common character traits. In other words, the ones that join scouting aren't that unique.
So that's really interesting. So what did the study reveal? What did it tell us?
Well then, over this 2.5 years of the study, the researchers recorded measurable positive differences in 6 out of those 10 character traits for the scouts compared to the non-scouts. And they even noted that the scouts who participated in organized sports and scouting had a greater chance to embrace values like helping others or doing the right thing. In addition, those who attend scout meetings regularly and spend more time in scouting activities recorded even higher character development than those who were just occasionally involved.
So like a lot of kids, these kids weren't involved just in scouting, they were doing sports and activities at church and those kinds of things. So it wasn't just a study of scouts just doing scouting things.
Correct.
So it's new, so how are councils using this information so far?
Well, there are 4 ways now that we've been able to promote this information. So first, the link to the study itself is tuftscampstudy.com, Tufts campstudy.com, if anyone wants to read the full empirical research. Second, BSA Communications has prepared a PowerPoint slide deck with key facts and graphs suitable for a variety of audiences: parents, fundraising, or other charter partner meetings. Third, an infographic combines the key parts of the PowerPoint as even a handout for these meetings. And finally, there are 2 articles that have been written in Scouting Wire and scoutingnewsroom.org.
Great. Well, so, it was funny. We were talking about this in a meeting several weeks ago, and one of the Scout executives I was talking to said, this is the kind of information I would include with a foundation proposal. If I was going to go talk to a donor about possibly funding Scouting, that'd be a great use for it as well, right?
Yes.
And I guess another conversation we've had too is how do we take and chase this down and use it for new unit development and starting units, right? Conversations with chartered organizations.
Yes, and even Tom Harrington had some feedback.
That's right. There was a great, Tom Harrington was talking about the fact there's an infographic and PowerPoint slides that we'd shared with elders of a church in Spokane, Washington. They were considering dropping their troop charter. And so thanks to Tim McCandless for taking the initiative and using those materials. As a result of using that, the church voted to retain Scouting in their youth program. So it's powerful stuff. It's really interesting. And I know there's great stuff to come. So we'll do a data dump session on every webinar going forward, and look forward to hearing more from Scott and some great research and information going forward.
Thanks.
Scott, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So next up, looks like we have Tom Rue. And it's a little bit change in the batting order here, guys. So as we're juggling chairs here in the broadcast studio at the National Service Center. So Tom, we thought it was important to introduce you to Tom Rue because you have seen lots of information and materials about building adventure, and you've seen the values of, not the values of men and boys in America, but the family room research has formed a lot of the work that's been done here. So Tom Rue is head of our national marketing team here at the National Service Center and has helped us with building adventure and Families Like Mine videos. You may have seen marketing around the Jamboree and the Summit. Tom, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Michael.
Hey, so we know we've seen a lot of this material, but if you could talk about Build an Adventure a little bit, the assets and resources that are available, because the reality is we have more assets and resources now than we've really ever had before, right?
We do. What we did a little over a year and a half ago, based on the authenticity gap research, was a lot of work with parents, and really came down to this core concept that we wanted to show. Our strategy is that Scouting helps parents make the most of the little time they have to positively impact their children. So many choices, so many options, so many things to do. We wanted to come up with a comprehensive campaign and set of assets that could be used by the local council, very turnkey, to help really deliver on that core message.
That's right. So all that stuff is up on the marketing toolbox, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. But so we actually launched Build an Adventure in 2014. It's for use in 2015, right?
That is correct. Last spring we went out to a camp here, Circle 10 Camp, and brought in a great production company. If you've seen Colorado State Tourism ads, if you've seen North Face, the company Camp 4 Collective that did those, also did our Cub Scout, Boy Scout, and venturing spots. We went out to that camp, did full video, photo shoot, and from that pulled together initially 30, 15-second TV spots, billboards, email templates, flyers, yard signs, anything you can imagine. We'll talk in a second about where those things are at. But
and those were in Spanish and in English too, right?
Yes, Spanish, English, and for some school flyers, bilingual with translation on front and back.
So we started off there, and then the growth initiative happened. And actually, next month's webinar we're going to dedicate entirely to Build an Adventure, really in the recruitment campaign for 2016. But I think it's really important to touch on this. The growth initiative under the leadership of Al Lambert and then Ron Timmons really began to rethink how we use that operationally for councils, right?
It did. What we saw is there's a couple of things. It's great to have assets, but what we did is really take the campaign and we broke it into 3 really easy turnkey booklets that I think we'll dig into more next time. But if you go to scoutingwire.org, there's a tab called the Marketing Membership Hub. This has an overview, everything from how to use social media, media buying, unit playbooks, and things that Lee will talk about. But also here, and if you click on the Brand Center tab, you will see turnkey programs. We have Hooked on Scouting, Science of Scouting, and we also have Rocket into Scouting. You could take and find how to promote an event around recruiting, how to order and give away a gift incentive for Cub Scouts to join, how to promote your school night, and then to finish it up within 2 or 3 weeks after joining, step-by-step instructions to do a district-level event where the new Cub Scouts can show up and use their new rod and reel that they got as a gift, do their science experiments, or do a rocket event to launch the rockets that they got for joining Cub Scouts.
So this isn't just a collection of poster flyers, yard signs, and stickers. It's really more than that. This is really how to use the material, right?
It really is a complete roadmap and playbook. Think of a football team. This really is everything you need in like 6, 7 easy steps, from setting up, planning, organizing, ordering, and recruiting. We had 80 plus councils who have used Build and Venture Assets, but we had 17, I believe, that were in a very tight sort of test market, and we're getting final recruiting numbers for Cub Scouts, but everything we're seeing anecdotally is very strong year-over-year growth in Cub Scout recruiting using these playbooks.
So really good positive feedback on the materials,
very positive feedback. The other thing is, I mentioned the Brand Center. Not only all the core assets out there, if you go to Brand Center, it has everything I just mentioned. It has the other videos, logos. Really, we're slowly replacing scouting.org/marketing, putting everything over on Scouting Wire under the Brand Center. I'm sure we'll have a future webinar on it. Even on the Brand Center, you can go in and create a login. You can customize and take our core templates and create versions on your own by switching out some photos, text, putting information about school nights, recruiting events, that type of thing.
So, and just to be clear, this is a replacement for the old marketing toolbox that some of our listeners may have been familiar with before it was on.
Right now, it's like, if you go to Jerry Jones' new stadium, AT&T Stadium, you got the great new stadium. Pretty soon, we're going to sort of blow up the old Texas Stadium, and all the traffic, if you, in the next few months, put in scouting.org/marketing, it will send you to this new dynamic site where all this information is available and resides. It's mobile friendly, easy to use, easy to download, and we think easy to find.
So it's not just print materials, right? You can also get videos and even radio commercials, right?
Videos, radio commercials, web banners, email templates, PSAs, English, Spanish. It's all out there, and I think organized, very easy to find way.
I like the way that the Brand Center is organized, because I'm always looking for videos to either take to a meeting or open a meeting with or to share with someone. You can actually watch the video on the site. Then you can download it, you can share it, all those kinds of things.
That's correct. Right? You can watch them, you can download them, save them. A lot of people go to meetings, they don't have good Wi-Fi connectivity, so trying to stream the video doesn't work. You can click once, download it on your device, and show it there at the meeting.
That's cool. The other thing that's really neat, and I've had a lot of good feedback on this from the site, is that if you've ever been on this National Scouting Facebook page, you've seen a really cool hero kind of image, and there's a quote from Baden-Powell at the bottom of it, some graphics like that, right? And those graphics are actually loaded onto the site, right?
They are. You can pull them right up there, use them from social media images, anything you want.
So in terms of a resource, that's good social media content for a council or a district or a unit and those types of things as well. So really good stuff. So, and it's not just recruitment videos on the site. This isn't just a recruitment resource toolbox.
Correct. There's partnership videos. There's why scouting's for families like yours. There's, we've done things with Jack Links. We've done things with Polaris. Assets like that are out there, so pretty wide range of materials out there.
And we're still porting stuff into the site, right?
We are. We're putting stuff out there. We're looking at 2016, developing a new module around camping, where it would be all about sign up, get a free gift. We're not sure, maybe a compass, a flashlight, some real nice, something a Cub Scout would like.
So this is a new playbook, right?
It is. It'll be a whole new playbook, a new module that'll be coming online next year. It'll be the 4th module that'll be sign up, get your free gift, get kids excited. And the key we've seen to retention and getting them engaged is within a few weeks after that, then you would have a district level camp, family camp, camporee to deliver on the gift you give them and the incentive to get them really engaged and plugged in early on. So more coming. We're hoping by mid-January, into January, that'll be ready, available. So it'll be a 4th option going into 2016.
Very good. Okay, so a sneak preview of another play going in the Build and Adventure playbook. That's good. Hey, so real quickly, I want to mention Families Like Mine videos. The research said people love scouting, they love what we do for the community, but then they came back and the research said, they didn't think scouting was for families like theirs, which is, I think, really frustrating for all of us who know that scouting really is for families like theirs. And the answer to that, you believe, is the Families Like Mine videos,
It
right?
is. Families like mine or families like yours. If you go to the scouting.org or scoutingwire.org and go to the Brand Center, you'll see videos, and one set of videos under there is around these families. We probably have 6 or 7. These aren't actors. They're not portrayed. These are actual couple of dads, but really zeroed in on the scout moms, and them tell their story of why they do scouting, what they like about scouting. Just a minute and a half of a really nice video, them telling what's so great about scouting, the impact it's had on their family, those testimonials. And we've had people come and start talking to a mom about their 7-year-old and when the kid's going to be going to college in a few years, and you have a very emotional connection about that opportunity to have an impact and how scouting can do that. So
it's interesting about those videos. I know that they've been viewed over 300,000 unique views, right?
That is correct.
And most of them are through Facebook. Looks like.
Facebook, YouTube, Scouting Wire, really have had good success on those video series. And
so you see us doing some more of those going forward.
I think so. Yeah, good. We're looking at ways to expand on that in 2016.
Well, fantastic. I get lots of positive feedback on that. Tom, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in today. Thanks again. Thanks a lot. Hey, so we have a lot of great assets and materials, but communicating them is always an opportunity and a challenge, not just for us, but I think for everyone in the scouting movement. So I want to take a few minutes today and talk about communications with Mr. John Churchill. So, we've gone from a position here of a barrage of emails coming out of the National Service Center and all over to moving to really what's a blog platform. So John Churchill is one of the guys who makes sure that communications go out of the national office and make sure we're seeing and viewing and clicking and sharing and talking about great things going on in scouting. So John, welcome. Glad to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Michael. Happy to be here to help talk about how we tell the scouting story.
We are telling the scouting story.
Right.
So I know Scouting Wire isn't new. It's really been around for a while, but it's been going through some changes. But for those who maybe kind of take it for granted, what is it? I know we've had some major changes to it just recently.
Right. Well, Scouting Wire got its origin back about 5 years ago when we tried to identify a way to reach out to employees. It started purely as an internal effort since our BSA platform isn't the greatest at hosting news and late-breaking things. So we just used a WordPress blog platform, free software, one-man operation. It was me, and we used it to reach out to our 7,500 or so local and national council employees. Since then, starting late 2014, we decided to redevelop it and make it a broader approach to reach out to our entire workforce, which includes volunteers as well. So same WordPress backbone. We did apply some money into branding and redesigning it and all of that, but it's the same. It's really the same theory, Michael. It's how do we get the news and information that employees and now volunteers, or just those interested in the scouting program, how do we get them the information they need?
And we know that's been a challenge, right? Because volunteers change positions, employees change positions, and we talk about sometimes it's kind of like educating a parade that's going by. You've got somebody new, sometimes every day, but certainly every week and every month, and that battle rhythm is important, right?
Exactly, and email isn't always the most effective way. I mean, we still don't have a great handle on having everyone's email who might be attached to the scouting program in some way, and not everyone might have an email address. So I think by having something that you can access both on your computer, on your phone, on a tablet, whatever it may be, it's optimized for all of those things. It's kind of the great equalizer. You need to be invited. You can go and check it out yourself.
Right. Well, there's a lot of websites that I love and a lot of places I go and I read news and information, but I don't go there every day. In fact, usually how I end up there is that I've subscribed to that site, I get an email, and then I go read a story that I think is interesting. But I may not go there every day. Sounds like Scouting Wire is the same way.
Excuse me, it is the same way. Every week we do an e-newsletter, kind of a digest version of the top 5 stories that we've written and posted to the site in the past week. That comes out every Wednesday. If you go to scoutingwire.org and it's the first time you've been there, or it's on a new device that might not have visited there, like your phone or whatever, a little box will pop up within 5 seconds asking you to sign up for the newsletter. We don't share the list. All we use it for is newsletter subscriptions, and so every week, for as long as you'd like, the top 5 stories will pop up in your email box. Click on one of the stories, it takes you right to the story and the site.
That's great. It's always a reminder to go back and check that site.
Exactly. It's kind of the touch point every week. We do that with a couple of our sites.
Well, and this is not just random material. This is just not a bunch of guys at the national office thinking up things to put out. In fact, I know we just left an editorial communications, really it's an editorial roundtable meeting where everybody sit around and we talk about what news is coming forward. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Right. Now, this is a fairly new effort. If you think Scouting Wire was really rolled out in its current form in March, and since that time we've gotten incredible traffic. We've gotten just under 500,000 users. We've had just over 1 million page views, but it wasn't on accident. We did apply some strategy to that, but what we realized was that between Scouting Magazine, Boys Life Magazine, some of the various e-newsletters or regular print newsletters that might go out, we have a lot of different people in this building and throughout the nation creating content, but we weren't all on the same page. So we developed this. It's a real simple concept. We put together a spreadsheet on Excel and made a tab for each month, and then we decided to meet every week. And so we get all of the content creators in this building, and from our high adventure bases, from supply, whoever might want to call into this call to listen to the top stories that we have planned for the week, who is going to lead those stories, whether it's a Scouting Magazine, Brian on Scouting blog piece that we then link to via Facebook or via Scouting Wire or the Scouting Newsroom. And it really gives us a chance to be more strategic in what we do and not quite so knee-jerk. If we get a great story tip, we just throw it up on the blog, like you said. It's not just us deciding randomly. You know, there's kind of a battle rhythm to our year. We know when recruiting is. We know when camping is hot. We know when Pinewood Derby is coming up. So all of this goes into a calendar, and we all sit and talk about it once a week. So it's a very simple thing to do, and I think that councils can do at their staff meetings. You know, you just talk about the top things that week. But now we're aligned, and we can be more strategic about what we do and how we do it.
You know, as I do webinars across the country and visits, and we talk about how a council can manage their social media, that's actually one of the things we recommend, is that don't treat social media as a one-off. It's really one of probably many communications channels that a council has. And to sit down and do just that, what does the scouting year look like, and then what stories are we going to run around popcorn sale or product sales or recruiting, those types of things. It's kind of basic blocking and tackling stuff.
Yeah, you don't leave it to chance. You apply a little business acumen to it, I guess, and you know, then it becomes you're not panicked about how do I fill a blank page or how do I tweet about something when I don't have anything to talk about. There's always something to talk about, especially when you have a calendar approach, you have a strategic approach where you're talking to all the different people. And it becomes now, for us, it's not how do we create content, but how do we best amplify and share that content with all of our different tools.
Right. Because I know there's also a conversation here about who's the right audience for this message as well, because from our perspective, it might be this is really good content for Scouting Wire, or it might be something that Brian on Scouting wants to share, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you have all your different audiences. You have parents, you have prospective parents, you might have donors, you have kids. Each of the channels that your council might employ has a slightly different audience. Your Facebook audience might not be the same as your 140 character at a time Twitter audience, or if you're posting things even on a platform like LinkedIn, or just the landing page of your council webpage. Each of those has a slightly different audience, and it's not a long conversation to figure out how best to hit each of those.
Right. So there's another channel out there that I think some people follow, maybe not everybody does, but it might make sense. But tell us about the Scouting Newsroom.
So Scouting Newsroom was our attempt to have more of a robust, full-featured media site. Once again, it started out with a very specific audience in mind. It was the external media working press type. If you go to scouting.org and click on media at the bottom of the page, it now takes you to Scouting Newsroom. Also, it's the same WordPress backend. It has a weekly e-newsletter that you can sign up for no matter what your role is. You don't have to be a credentialed media member to do that. You can be a mom, you can be a council employee, you can whoever, and what the different slant on those stories, that's really more aimed at telling the BSA story, all the good that we do, official news releases that we might create, if we're launching program changes, putting up a new building somewhere. That's really more the slant there, whereas Scouting Wire are, if you think more of feature content, scouts doing good things, best practices that you can employ in your council. So it's a slightly different voice. It's right. A more formal voice on the newsroom, a more informal voice on Scouting Wire.
So I know we have a lot of national news organizations that follow that Scouting Newsroom piece. So I know it's CNN and MSNBC, some of those. So that's where we put out real live news stories out of the organization are going to come out of the Scouting Newsroom, right?
Exactly. For the most part, when we look at the subscriber list of the 8,000 or so people who have signed up for that e-newsletter, you have your Washington Posts and your Women's Day magazine and different things like that. And we have actually landed stories in publications just because of the work that we've done there. I think the days of writing a press release and sending it to a reporter are over. We have to tell our own story. And so that's what we use that site for. We write the stories, we get it approved, we provide artwork and all of that, and we're not waiting for someone to hopefully put the right spin on a story that they might see. We're doing a lot of the groundwork for them, and it's landing right in the laps of the media who might want to use that.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch the battle rhythm of that. That we'll post a story. Some news organization will pick it up, we'll tweet it, somebody else will pick it up, and then it catches fire, and then it's all of a sudden it's on.
Yeah, it's a
CBS
brave new media world. It's not, like I said, it's not your grandfather's idea of a newspaperman and all of that. It's called content marketing or brand journalism, where we're actually writing the stories that we want to tell.
Right. So I would say, and this is probably a topic for a future webinar, but PR in a modern world. So you probably would recommend that the local council needs to start their own scouting newsroom site, but maybe think about how to share information differently with media in your community, whether it's email or whatever works best locally, right?
Yeah, don't wait for people to reach out to you. You can reach out to them. You don't have to set up a site like this because we've done it for you. Scouting Wire, right now, the reach is about 35,000 subscribers. We're hoping in the next year or two to add a 0 onto the end of that number through some outreach. It's only been around 9-10 months, and so it's been a slow, soft launch. But we can help tell your story. On the very front page of Scouting Wire, you scroll to the bottom, there's a big red box that says share your story. We get story ideas directly from that. If you don't have the people at your council, you don't have the volunteers or the staff, all you have to do is click that box, send us an email. We have the staff to apply toward that. We can tell your story. We can amplify it on Facebook, Twitter, and then we've just created a link to a story that you can then share on your Facebook page, your council's webpage. That's one of the services that we're here to provide for you.
So those stories might be heroism stories or service stories or anything you think might be relevant to a broader audience.
Sure, all of those. Scouts being scouts. You might think that our number one story in the past year or so has been something controversial like membership change. That's a top 5 story for certain. Our number one story that's gotten about 38,000 views is can you get Eagle Scout after 18? That is, Eagle Scout stories are always good. It's young men reaching their potential, and I think that's what people look to the scouting program to do, and that's what they want to read. We have stories about scouts facing disabilities who managed to overcome that and reach Eagle. Like you said, service stories are always big. It's scouts being scouts. That's what people like to read.
Very good. So top trending stories right now on Scouting Wire?
Eagle Scouts sell, once again. That's what we were just talking about in our meeting. Our top several stories of the past week have been scouts doing interesting Eagle Scout projects, a scout with a brain tumor who overcame that to reach Eagle. It's the feel-good stories. It's the stories that resonate, that tell a story, and not just inform someone of A, B, or C is happening next week.
Very good. Well, listen, your team does a great job. We appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Great, Michael. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. Hey, so it's no secret that chartered organizations are the backbone of the scouting movement. We have national relationships with literally dozens of these organizations. So the gentleman whose team worked with these organizations to strengthen and grow relationships is Lee Shaw. And Lee is here with us this morning. Hey, Lee, how you doing?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
Fantastic. So there are a lot of chartered organizations out there, both community and religious. A lot of them have a national presence. How many are we talking about, and what would be some examples?
Well, I'll tell you, there's over 110,000 chartered organizations across the country that charter units. However, when we talk about the national chartered organizations and the relationships we have currently about 86 of those kind of organizations from a national perspective with the scouting affiliations.
Okay. So an example of that might be?
Well, really, we look at it in 3 categories. We look at it in the religious relationships aspect of it, or faith-based, as most people would refer that to. We have the community organizations and then the educational organizations. I think it's pretty clear with the religious or faith-based organizations. We're talking about churches, synagogues. It could be the Catholic Church, United Methodist Church,
right,
the LDS Church. When you look at the community realm, then you're talking about the American Legion, Rotary, Kiwanis, things along those lines. And then in the educational bucket, as I call it, you have the PTAs, you have private schools, you have business-to-school support agencies, and so all of those make up the chartered organizations that we have relationships with nationally.
So your team works with the leadership of those organizations, and the conversations are really about growing scouting and strengthening relationships. How does that work?
Well, I tell you, it works several ways, but the most important way is to find out what those organizations are trying to accomplish through their youth service, whatever that looks like for them. Scouting, the great thing about us is we're so versatile and flexible, so we can kind of adapt to what we're doing to make sure that those organizations have the ability to reach their objectives and their goals. So a lot of the conversation is really finding out the vision that they have, the aims, the objectives that they have, and figuring out ways in which scouting can help support their efforts in that regard.
Sounds like a lot of relationship building and a lot of strong conversations.
No secret to what makes scouting work, and that is the relationship aspect.
So if I'm a youth serving executive somewhere listening to this, what's available to help her as she's looking to start a unit with a new chartered organization or jumpstart a relationship? What kind of tools and resources are out there?
Well, first I'll tell you there's no substitute for hard work. So the fact is that being able to get into your community and understand what's going on and who is there to help and support when it comes to child advocacy is really important. And my years as a director of field service, I strongly encouraged all of our field staff to make sure they knew their communities well enough to understand what the needs were and how to approach individuals to let them know that scouting indeed can help them overcome some of the challenges, not only in their organization, but in the community itself. When we talk about specific materials or resources that individuals can utilize as far as new unit development, relationships, and things along those lines, I'll give you several and then kind of explain what they are and where they can be found. I'll begin with the Unit Performance Guide. The Unit Performance Guide it really outlines the step-by-step process of developing new units. Many of us come from a place where the 10 steps to organizing a unit or 12 steps to organize a unit, showing my age there just a little bit. But with this Unit Performance Guide, we really broke it down into 4 pillars in terms of being able to start units and try to figure out the best way to go about that in the approach. And so that is constantly updated. I think we're on our 3rd edition.
Okay.
We try to utilize best practices from across the country where people have had success in developing new units. The second piece I'd steer you to is the Charter Organization Resource Guide. This guide has about everything you can ask for and then more in terms of understanding the charter organizations that we have relationships with and then those potential charter organizations that we want to have relationships with. This is a guide that has extensive resources that detail all you would need to know in terms of that charter organization, such as their structure, such as their vision or their mission, the number of units they currently charter with the Boy Scouts of America, things as simple as the names of the positions within that organization. For instance, the American Legion, just knowing that the post commander is a term that's used and an individual that one should get to know. Understanding their structure within their districts, within their states, within the national organization. All of that is outlined in that resource guide so people can go in with a clear mind of knowing and understanding how that operation works.
Well, that's great. So if I'm a new district executive or I'm a volunteer and we're going to go have a conversation with somebody at the American Legion, I can pull this out, and this is kind of a 101 guide to who I might need to talk to, who are making the key leadership decisions, even how the organization is structured.
That is correct. And it goes beyond that. It actually will tell you about, for instance, the American Legion. They give out scholarships to Eagle Scouts and to Scouts in general. And just knowing that there's a $10,000 scholarship available for Scouts within the National American Legion is something that's powerful as you talk to a local commander in terms of what scouting is and the importance that the American Legion sees scouting to be able to invest in us in that way.
That's great. Well, so one of the things, I had a question recently at an event. a unit serving executive was asking me about letters of support, memorandums of understanding. Do we have those kinds of things available?
We absolutely do have those available. They can be found actually in this guide. Every memorandum of understanding, letter of affiliation is in this particular guide. And they can also be found on the website in the hub under the resources guide for new unit development.
Okay, well that's a good transition. So we're starting to move, as Tom Rue mentioned earlier. The Membership Marketing Hub also has a section that is being populated now with new unit resources. That's up on Scouting. That's up on you can find it on the Scouting Wire. Get to it to the Membership Marketing Hub. So what's on that site now? I know we have Strengthening Youth Through Scouting brochures, and there's links to videos and that type of thing, right?
Right, and if I could just touch on the Strengthening Youth Through Scouting piece, because that is available as a PowerPoint as well as a hard copy. The importance of that is it's kind of a sales kit that is the initial sales kit that a unit executive may use when they approach a charter or a potential charter organization. So it has kind of the overview of what scouting is and looking at the 3 specific programs. And so that's one of the things that I would like to draw people's attention to, and that can be found on the hub, the site in which we're talking about. There are other materials that are on there as well, including playbooks in terms of new unit development. And we're talking about from A to Z how to really have Cub Scout recruitment night and what that really looks like today in 2015 as opposed to maybe in years past, what parents are looking for, the ability to get it done in a shorter amount of time. So we really go through not only those that are needed to be involved from the volunteer standpoint, but from the district level and from the council level of the things that could happen to make that more successful.
Well, that's a fascinating conversation because I think one of the things you're referring to is that there's a case study on the site from North Florida Council.
Correct.
Where they kind of took apart their joint scouting night to really understand what parents were experiencing, things they might need to change and improve on, right?
Correct.
Good. Well, I know one of the things they ran into was, boy, parents were tired of 2-hour joint scouting night events, right? Which just would drive anybody crazy.
Absolutely, Michael. And I had to tell you, as a parent and having sat through some of those, I call them dissertations, I can tell you that we absolutely as an organization need to change the approach in terms of being able to quickly show people what it is they need to know and get them on. A lot of sports programs have figured this out. You may not even know the coach the night that you join a soccer or little league or midget football team. You may not even figure out who your coach is, but the sign-up process is seamless in terms of making it quick, giving you just enough information to get you to the next point. And what we found through the councils who have organized their sign-up nights sort of like that is that the retention of those families to come back has greatly increased.
Right.
And so we no longer oversell the program or invite people to leave after too long of a period of time, but to give them just enough to want a little more and have them come back. And that's all outlined in that particular playbook with the new unit development.
Well, it's really interesting material, and it's interesting research, and we'll hear more about that type of research on a future phone call. But so, Lee, if you had to leave a youth serving executive or a volunteer with one either piece of advice or one resource that you shouldn't leave home without, what would that be?
Well, that's a really tough question, I tell you, but I would have to say it really begins and ends with relationships. And the better and stronger we can have relationships with communities, with charter organizations or potential charter organizations, the more successful we can be. There's a lot of different materials that are out there, but I have to tell you that you have to use your own good judgment, your best judgment in terms of the situation or circumstances that you're in order to figure out exactly what piece you would use. I can tell you that the annual charter agreement piece is one that is underused in my opinion, and one that certainly can help make sure that you cultivate the types of relationships you need with charter organizations to move forward. It can encourage not only that particular charter organization to continue to support scouting, maybe at the Cub level or at the Boy Scout level, but also you can increase your odds of having a full family of scouting with that charter organization by sitting down and figuring out what their needs are and some of the things that they're most interested in when it comes to any of our programs.
So really it's not just about our needs, it's really helping understand what their needs are as an organization and how can scouting help in that respect, right?
you hit the nail on the head. It is all about figuring out what their needs are.
Very good. Lee, thanks a lot. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, so we committed this would be a 45-minute session, and we're going to stay true to that and honor everyone's time. So we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and thanks for everyone who was a part of this, who came in and helped out with the production on this. We'll be posting a recording of this session later on today. You'll find a link of that showing up on the Scouting Wire within the next 24 hours or so you can listen to it or share it. Remember, if you're looking for any or all of these resources that we've talked about today, you can find just about all of them on the Membership Marketing Hub or the BSA Brand Center, which is, you can also find a link on the Scouting Wire as well, which if you're on the website, you can find a link right at the top of the page. So join us next time on December the 15th at 10 a.m. Central for the holiday installment of the NextConnect webinar system. We're going to unwrap Build an Adventure for 2016 and really get under the hood of a Build an Adventure, talk about the playbooks in a lot of detail, I think really get into and talking about case studies that are on the site, as well as some success stories that we're beginning to hear this year from Fall Recruiting 2015. And also to hear more about what's going to be happening with that program for 2016 and beyond. So again, I'm Michael Ramsey. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks a lot.